I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening. What is going on in the skies above the United States of America, Canada, and hell, for the rest of the world for that matter? All over planet Earth, we've had reports for years of flying objects that cannot be identified. Call them UFOs, or the current thing is UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. Things that we just don't know what they are or where they came from. And these reports keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Just recently, we had the military finally come out and admit that yes, the reports from military aviators, especially naval aviators, have actually launched off of aircraft carriers to go intercept UFOs, things they didn't know what they were. And they captured them on their gun camera footage on their aircraft, and the whole world has seen them now. Objects doing things that defy everything we know about aerodynamics. Objects doing things that could not have any type of human in them because it would just disintegrate the human body. The way they were able to go from a hover to hundreds of thousands of miles per hour in a split second. Some of them going under the water and coming back out. And our military has admitted, they've held conferences up in Washington, D.C. They've went in front of Congress and our own record admitting that, yes, there are things in our universe that we do not know what they are. So that brings us to what's been happening over the past week. Last weekend, as we all know by now, a suspected Chinese surveillance balloon was taken down by U.S. Air Force F-22 fighter planes off the coast of South Carolina after it was allowed to transit all the way across America. That balloon is still being looked at and recovered pieces of it off the ocean floor for us to determine exactly who it belonged to. Was it really China or was it the Russians? We don't really know. But they do know that because many people filmed it, that it was an actual balloon with an object underneath it that was supposedly collecting surveillance. China came out and said it belonged to them and it was a weather balloon. And they're still sticking to that story, that it was a weather balloon. Next, an unidentified flying object was shot down in Alaska airspace by, again, U.S. Air Force F-22 fighters. And the public is told this time that the object was not a balloon, but the military did not yet know what they had shot down. And there is a recovery effort still going on to get whatever this object is so it can be investigated. Then an unidentified object was shot down over northern Canada yesterday, making it the third time in a week that U.S. fighter jets had taken down unidentified flying objects over North American airspace. Of course, one of those being the balloon, so they know that was a balloon, but the other two, they don't know. In a streamed news conference just yesterday, Canadian's Defense Minister, Anita Anand, described the object as reported by Canadian military pilots as being cylinder, not a balloon, and they did not observe any type of propulsion and did not know how this thing was even staying in the air. Again, being some type of technology that's well and above what we know of as far as aerodynamics are concerned. If it is another country that has developed technology above and beyond what we know, then we need to be aware of that because we're way behind the power curve. Or if it's from somewhere else in our universe, well, we should probably know that too. The U.S. military said there's no indication at this point that the unidentified flying objects have any connection to the Chinese spy balloon that they shot down last week. Then this put the national security officials across the continent on edge as to what these flying objects are. Now, let's go back and discuss briefly UFO. UFO does not necessarily mean it's little green men from another planet. UFO just means it's an unidentified flying object. Now, the Pentagon has changed that name to UAP, which stands for Unidentified Aerial Phenomenon, because of the stigma that's attached to the UFO, flying saucer type thing. Last night, and again today, the Federal Aviation Administration restricted some airspace over Lake Michigan near Wisconsin for national defense airspace. The FAA made similar flight restrictions ahead of the operation to shoot down the spy balloon that they shot down that was identified back off the coast of North Carolina and what they shot down over Alaska. The U.S. military said today there has been caution inside the Biden administration on the military pilot's description of the unidentified flying objects over the United States and Canada due to the circumstances in which they were viewed by the pilots. The release said the objects did not resemble a balloon and were much smaller than the China balloon, and we did not definitely characterize them and can't until we recover the debris, which we're working on. A National Security Council spokesman said, referring to the suspected Chinese spy balloon, Deputy Pentagon Press Secretary Sabrina Tsai also noted the difference between these incidences. Excuse me. These objects shot down on Friday and Saturday were objects that did not resemble the Chinese balloon. When we can recover the debris, we will know more and be able to tell you more about what they are. Now, the U.S. military has shot down yet another one of these objects, this time over Lake Horn this afternoon, according to U.S. officials and a congressional source briefed on the matter. And it's being reported by every news outlet on planet Earth as we speak. Democrat Representative Alicia Slotkin of Michigan said today that the operation to down the object over Lake Horn was carried out by pilots of the U.S. Air Force and the Air Force National Guard. Officials have used particular car, a Volkswagen Beetle, to describe the rough size of the object that was shot down Friday in Alaska and Saturday in Canada. But while they're similar in size, they're slightly different in profile. All of these leaves everyone to wonder one of three things. Number one, the objects being shot down belong to another country that has been spying on us. Maybe Russia, China, or North Korea. And now many are wondering, are we about to head into World War III? Or, number two, the objects being shot down are just a distraction from the House investigation into the Biden family, with the president and his sons Hunter's involvement with China and Ukraine, and the all-damning information coming from Hunter's laptop. Or number 3, we've shot down objects from another world within the universe that are not human. Now, earlier today, Democrat Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer told ABC News that he was briefed on the subject by White House National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan, and that the objects being shot down were likely just another high-altitude balloon. Now insert the Roswell incident and tell me if this doesn't sound very, very familiar to what is happening right this moment. The Roswell incident centers around the recovery of a UFO in 1947 in Roswell, New Mexico. The first person to arrive on the scene was a local rancher by the name of W.W. Matt Burzell. At the time, he had no clue what he was looking at, just as the crash debris were unlike anything he'd ever witnessed before. He would go on to say later that what he saw, picked up, and held in his hands was something that he had never seen before or felt before. He then dug a hole in the dirt and buried the debris. He did, however, bring some of the crash material home to his ranch, where he showed it to his family and his children. Now, back in 1947, the ranch had no phone, no radio, and the internet had not been discovered, leaving Burzell unaware of the flying saucer craze of the prior 10 days that were spreading across America and even across the globe. As a result, it was not until 3 weeks later when he finally heard the news reports and he connected the debris that he had found with the flying disc in the news. When Burzell heard the stories of the silvery flying disc being reported, he decided to gather up the debris he had found. On Sunday, July 6th, Burzell went back to the crash site and he dug up some of the debris. On Monday, July 7th, he took it to the sheriff's office in Roswell. The sheriff called Roswell Army Airfield, which assigned the matter to Major Jesse Marcel. Burzell took Major Marcel back to the debris site, and the two gathered up more pieces of this object. On Tuesday morning, July 8th, Marcel took the material to his base commander, Colonel William Blanchard. Blanchard reported the findings to General Roger Ramney at Fort Worth Army Airfield. General Ramney ordered the material flown to him immediately. Marcel boarded a B-29 Super Fortress and made the flight to Fort Worth Army Airfield. The following day, the military public information officer by the name of Walter Hott issued a press release that personnel from the 509th Operations Group had recovered a flying disc, which had crashed near a ranch near Roswell. The release was as follows. The many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence office of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a flying disc through the cooperation of one of the local ranchers in the sheriff's office in Chaves County. The flying object crash landed on a ranch near Roswell sometime last week. Not having phone facilities, the rancher stored the disc until such time as we were able to contact the sheriff's office, who in turn notified Major Jesse A. Marcel of the 509th Bomb Group Intelligence Office. Action immediately was taken, and the disc was picked up at the rancher's home. It was inspected at the Roswell Army Airfield and then loaned to Major Marcel to higher headquarters for investigation. With that simple military press release that they had in their possession, an object from outer space or a UFO, the public went crazy. Many people believing that aliens from another planet would return to recover their flying disc, and who knows what will happen next. All types of stories started coming out within literally 24 hours, the world knew the American military had in their possession a UFO from outer space admitted by the U.S. military. Then the following day, the United States military issued yet another press release. This time saying the recovered object was not a flying saucer after all, but instead was a weather balloon. Along with the release was a photo of military officers holding up pieces of the supposedly weather balloon that was found at the crash site. On July 9th, 1947, Rancher Brazil told the Roswell Daily Record that the material shown by the military in the news press release was not the material he had turned over to them. Years later, one of his sons would report that when you crinkled the material in your hands as you would with a piece of paper to throw it away, when you'd open your hand, this material returned to its original state and not stay crinkled up. He also reported that there was some sort of unusual writing in a language that was unlike anything he'd ever seen, and he had no clue what it said, and he couldn't make out what it meant. Then the UFO government cover-up conspiracy began, which is spread all over the world for many, many generations. Bring us to where we're at today. If you go back to when COVID hit, at about that same time is when our Pentagon, our U.S. military, admitted that UFOs existed, except we're not going to call them UFOs, we're going to call them UAPs, unidentified aerial phenomena. It's something out there that's flying around the world and our country and our military facilities and our aircraft carriers out to sea that we do not know what they are. And when we launch aircraft to find them, they're able to speed away at a speed that's unlike anything we've ever been able to produce. By changing the name from UFO to UAP, they believed that by putting together a special task force, they would be allowed to get airline pilots, civilian pilots, military pilots to come forward with their reports and pictures, videos of what they've seen flying around so they can piece this together and figure out what is actually happening. The Pentagon has held several briefings on this with Congress. Some of you have seen it on C-SPAN. There's nothing secret about it. They're admitting that something exists flying around and we don't know what it is. In this case, does it have anything to do with those objects that the military has talked about over the past 3 years? We don't know. With everything that's been going on, especially with the COVID situation, this release went right over everyone's head for the majority of it. People didn't pay much attention to it. Oh, well, UFOs are here from another planet. Who gives a shit? We got this pandemic going on. It's locking us all down. I mean, literally, for years, people have wanted to know. One of the biggest questions of mankind is, are we alone in this universe? And now NASA has proven to us that it's not just this universe. There are literally hundreds of thousands of other universes out there that are our size and bigger that they've been able to detect through different telescope systems like the Hubble, for instance, that they put out into outer space. So mankind has always wanted to know, are we alone? And over the past week, with these objects being shot down by our U.S. military, and our U.S. military not being able to tell us yet what they are, we're left to wonder. And many of us wonder going all the way back to 1947 in Roswell and that situation. Look it up. Do your own homework on the Roswell incident. It's very, very unique, to say the least. And it all came back down to a weather balloon, which is exactly what Chuck Schumer is now trying to put out there. And it may be, for all we know. Maybe our U.S. military pilots and the Canadian pilots of their military didn't see the balloon part. I don't know. Neither do you. Neither does anyone. But what I do know is something is going on in our airspace, and it's been going on for quite some time. And to think that we're the only civilization in all these universes would be pretty damn foolish. What they look like or what their technology is, who the hell knows? Or do they look like little green men from Mars? I don't know. Probably not. But I don't think we're alone. I believe there's something bigger out there. I believe that in due time, it will all come out. And what's going to come out over the next coming hours, days, weeks, and years about these shoot downs is going to be very interesting. When they recover all these debris from Alaska, from Michigan, from Canada, are we actually going to see it? Are they actually going to tell us what it is? Or are they going to cover it up because they don't believe that we're capable of handling the truth? If you go back and you look up Orson Welles and his story, A War of the Worlds, that was just a story back before television when he put it out on the radio, pretending that we were being attacked by aliens from outer space. And people went nuts, raping and pillaging and committing suicide. And many people believe because of that, that has a lot to do with why our government has covered up the UFOs through the years, because they don't want people to go insane again. I don't know. It's just one of many, many theories. Anyhow, in the coming days, weeks, and months, and years, it's going to be interesting to find out exactly what the governments of the world tell us about what's actually happening and whether or not we will ever get the truth. Who knows? Because they're very good at covering up everything. And they're doing a damn good job of it right now. If you watched any of these briefings from the Pentagon in the past few days about these objects, you walked away with a million questions, because even the reporters won't ask the right questions. I don't know if they're afraid to, or if they were told in advance, you can't ask this, you can ask that, or who knows. But it's damn near comical at this point. We're shooting down things from the sky that supposedly we don't know what they are. One hand says slender objects, no propulsion, able to defy all things that we know about aerodynamics. The other side says, oh, weather balloon. That's been going on since 1947. And it's still happening today in 2023. Take care, everyone. See you Tuesdays and Thursdays right here for the live Douglas Ducote Show at 8 p.m. Central Time. I hope you'll join me. Have a blessed day.